can feel the fight, but I don't gotta give my flesh the mic. I won't let the sun go down on me. I won't let my anger make my history. I'm learning how to pause, how to breathe.
Y'all believed, okay, and you going by these church fathers or whatever, that y'all believe that it contained Gnostic teachings.
What
That's
church
the
father
that's the
mentioned?
reason
What
why
church
y'all
father mentioned?
disqualified.
What church
Okay.
father mentioned the Gospel of
I
Thomas?
don't need to know their names. I know that y'all believe that they contain Gnostic teachings.
Just
I know
remember, this is
that.
the same guy who said that reading books is
I
bad.
know that.
Just putting that out
Hold on,
there.
Steph. Hold on, Steph. Now it's either you want me or
Oh,
not.
he said
You
that,
not
right?
y'all
So
heard.
you and
First of
I
all, y'all
are
killed
abreast
them.
on the Gnostic
Correct.
literature. We can
Y'all
actually have
killed.
a discussion about it,
Yeah,
but
I'm done.
but
I
we're
can't. You
not
don't even let me talk.
invoking them in this discussion. Our interlocutor is, yet he has no knowledge of what those texts say.
You
Give
do
us
you really
give us
do
an
you re-
example of a
Okay, I'm
Gnostic
gonna give you
teaching.
an example.
What makes
And don't
something
steal.
Gnostic?
Don't steal what
Are
I'm
the
He's
about to
being
replays
tell you
nervous
on? Because
again.
this
because
is going to
you
be a
didn't
gift
even
that
know.
keeps on
You
giving.
didn't
You're a
Yeah.
Name a
heretic.
Gnostic.
all right,
Name a
You're a
DL.
Gnostic
All
that
right,
was
heretic.
Yeah.
no
Christian.
Oh,
DL. Don't
okay.
help
So
her
of
out.
course, yeah.
Steph, don't ask
DL.
me no more questions
The
because I'm done. Just don't ask me any questions or mention my name,
okay,
please.
you're retreating. It's fine. I get it.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
DL.
she won't ask
retreating.
you any
Yeah.
questions. Just go on mute and be quiet.
Okay, and
Yeah,
don't
I'm
mention
not
my
going to ask any
name because
questions. I find you obnoxious and like kind of. Oh, who did that?
We'll bring him back when he calms down. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Captain.
So he
I can.
asked me, I think what he's trying to do is label a school of Orthodox Christianity as quote literalist, but a literalist can be anything. What that's like saying, Steph, can you explain to me what chocolate is? Chocolate what? Like I can tell you it comes from a cocoa bean. What are you asking me about? Are you asking chocolate ice cream? Are you asking chocolate in a bar? Are you asking like I don't understand what you're the word literalist applies to so many portions of history that
Right.
asking the question, explain the literalist position, I need to know the rest of the sentence. That's why I'm struggling. It's not that I don't know what a literalist is. It's are we talking about postmodern German literary criticism or are we talking so I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to pit literalist and Gnostic against each other. What he doesn't understand is what Gnosticism is and the reason that they were seen as heretical. So, some 200 years after the Gospels were written, these dudes come around and claim that they have secret knowledge of Jesus Christ, much like something like the Jehovah's Witnesses today or the Mormons. We have this other gospel, it's a secret.
Or the
They have
Muslims.
or the Muslim, yes, exactly. And they have this whole entire thing about, well, there's a separation of spirit and body. And so when Christ said this thing, he meant this other thing. And 300 years later, we're going to write that this was deemed heretical, like the Gospel of John is already fighting against Gnosticism, but he doesn't know that. And that's what's so embarrassing for him is the questions he's asking betray how little he knows. And so he just saw himself out of the room because I guess I was so scared that he had to leave, which was nice of him. But anyway, and then the last thing I'll say, DL, I want to know this from you. On what grounds does a Muslim criticize the 30-year gap between the Gospel of Mark and the death of Christ? Like, how can they look a Christian in the eye and ask about a gap between the death of Christ and the Gospels when the Quran occurred 600 and change years later? Like, what is going
Well,
on in their head when they do that?
Muslims they they function on the same premises that Orthodox Jews uh, function on. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to test the cognitive abilities of the person that they're talking to. Right? They're only going to uh, play up to the standards of the level of the intellect of the person that they're talking to. So once they, if you recognize like rabbinical literature, like the Talmud, the Tosafot, the Midrashim, the Targums and stuff like that, they're going to be selective as to what they discuss with you. Same with Muslims. Muslims uh, are readily know that the average Christian knows nothing about textual criticism, They know nothing about the composition of the Gospels, and they just take it for granted that it's the Word of God. And then they can try to, upstage them. The other thing is that they don't realize, because Muslims look like they look so dedicated and religious. You know what I'm saying? It's, people are almost afraid to, like, Christians are afraid to talk to them because they look so devout or whatever. Well, one of the things that I realized after reading the Quran for about 5 years, I was one of those guys that didn't want to approach a Muslim. But one of the things I found out is that the average Muslim is just like the average Christian. They're religious, but they don't know anything about their scriptures, right? So most of the times that I'd engage a Muslim with the Quran, I'm having to show them that their Quran actually says these things, right? Um, the other thing is knowing how the Quran came together, and that's utilizing their sources, and then understanding the time frame in which those sources were written. Uh, you're able to combat any type of argument that they make against the New Testament documents, right? But what I'm saying is it depends on who you are. If they know that you don't know anything about the Quran, then they'll just come with the same old Dawa script. Oh, the Quran is a miracle. It somehow fell out of heaven. There's only one Quran. It's never been tampered with. It's never been, any of that. Or a guy like me who studied their sources, realize that those traditions that they believe in are not holistically true. So, where they get the temerity and the audacity to argue against a 30-year gap of when Jesus lived in the first gospel, um, compared to the Quran, right, and that literary barbecue that they had 20 years later after the first compilation, unauthorized compilation of the Quran by Zayd bin Thabit,
That's
I have no
funny.
idea. I have no
That's
idea.
wild, dude.
But what I try to do is I just try to have a straight up discussion. If the Bible is what you say, now remember, this is even more so embarrassing. Um, if the Bible is what Muslims say it is, it's anonymous, corrupted, and uninspired, and the Quran is the word of Allah spoken ex cathedra, shouldn't the word of Allah be more powerful than the words of mere men? Why try to deconstruct the Bible? Why try to atomize passages and stuff like that in the Bible? You should be able to go to the theology of the Quran and wreck anything I say from the Bible because it's the words of men. But they're scared of the Bible. So they have to, well, E.P. Sanders says that Peter didn't even write Second Peter. They do that after I quote from Peter. But Peter's a mere man, according to you, who was uninspired by God, right? And his book is corrupted. So why are you appealing to E.P. Sanders and his belief that Peter didn't write Second Peter? You
Dude,
should just
that's
be able to
such a good point.
destroy what Peter says through the theology of the Quran, but you can't. As a matter of fact, you don't even want to go toe to toe with Second Peter or the Book of Acts or John, which, according to the Sirat Rasulullah, the first biography of your prophet, testified that John wrote the Gospel of John. That's another thorn in your side. Maybe not for Black Truth because he's a Quran only, but for Salafi, that's a problem. So the issue that's the points that I try to prove when I'm talking to them is that theology is the first biggest problem of Islam. Whenever a Muslim says to me, your scriptures are corrupted, you're admitting that your Quran cannot go toe to toe with the Old or the New Testament. And you don't want to go toe to toe with it. The second is history. The Quran makes historical claims that cannot be substantiated by the historical record. Surah 5, Ayah 14, and Allah also took a covenant with those who called themselves Christians, but they forgot a portion of that which they were reminded, so Allah sowed enmity and hatred amongst them. Okay, well, when did he make this covenant with them? What was the source of the covenant? What was the portion of the covenant that they forgot? right? Well, they can't answer that question because if you use the historical record, it's going to lead them back to Luke chapter 22, verse 20, where Jesus says, "This is the new covenant in my blood," which they have to reject because they don't believe that Jesus died by crucifixion. It's historical hogwash. It's archaeological garbage as well, right? Surah 33, is it Surah 33? Makes a comment that the people in Mecca passed by the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah on a daily basis, where the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah are south of the Dead Sea, some 900 miles north of Mecca. It's just garbage, and yet they believe it.
So that's why you were willing to concede Mary and Thomas.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
yeah,
no
I
need.
see. Yeah.
There's like no need for me to get into all of that technical stuff with them. But you know, if you want to, I'll give it to you. Okay, you brought up Thomas, the Nag Hammadi Gospels. Go ahead, you can use them. Let's have a debate. Turns out he doesn't even know them. That's why I said he's just like a dog that finally caught the car. What are you going to do with it now? The answer is nothing. Um, but like I said, everybody has their own style, everybody has their own apologetic. Me, I'm just like done getting technical with Muslims because a lot of times that they do that is to keep you from getting to the main point, right? I know where this is going, so I got to try to shortstop these guys. Got to take us on a detour. You know what I'm saying? Because I go for the juggler. I'm not playing around with Muslims. Their prophet lied about the identity, the mission, and the message of the Messiah. And to me, that's just unforgivable. So if you want to go toe to toe, let's do it. Did you hear that Black Truth or did he leave?
Oh, he gone.
Mm.
Steph, I'd love to hear you expand on that more. As as soon as you conceded Mary and Thomas, I thought, oh, I wonder he must have something up his sleeve. Like then it's not about, yeah, then it's not about trying to defend the Christian Bible because you're saying it already,
Yeah,
like
just
the Christian Bible shouldn't matter if your book is true, but look at that, it does matter because your book is false. That's an interesting stance to take.
yeah, they make the argument that, oh, well, which Bible are you talking about? You talking about the Protestant Bible with 66, you talk about the Catholic Bible, you talk about the Ethiopian with 85 books, 87 books or whatever. Which Bible are you talking about? I always tell them, use any one you want to. Jesus died by crucifixion, rose again, and is divine in all of those books, whichever Bible you pick. But Christians want to say, oh, well, you got to understand, man, that the Septuagint was the first translation that added the Apocrypha to, you know, you're just doing what they want you to do, right? Because the question is that you started off talking about Jesus's death by crucifixion and its historical corroboration, right? But well, what Bible are you talking about? Well, take your pick. You can even use the Ethiopian Bible. That Bible's going to say Jesus died by crucifixion, rose again, he's divine. There's no point in me spending 2 hours in a discussion, right? And we just get to the point. You can have it. Man, Paul wasn't one of the original apostles. Okay, well, let's just forget Paul and his epistles. I'll use Peter, James, and John. You made the argument that Paul changed the message of the original apostles. So the original apostles must have the original message. Let's go to Peter. First 5 verses debunks Islam. Jesus is divine, right? He died by crucifixion. He rose again. Just in the first 5 verses of First Peter chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. Paul is a scapegoat. You want to go to John? John says the same thing. Jesus is an atoning sacrifice, not only for our sins, but for the sins of the world. Christians are still busy trying to justify Paul, spending 2, 3 hours doing that when I'm trying to get to the point of what was the message of Jesus. Paul taught the same thing the other apostles taught. So there's no need for me to waste time with Paul. You think Paul is an interloper and a false prophet and apostle? Let's get rid of him. I'll just use Peter, James, and John. Now you still have the same problem. Jesus died by crucifixion, rose again, and he's divine.
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
good.
studying a lot of Gary Habermas with the minimal facts argument. You know, just let's just deal with the minimal facts, man. You want Paul, you can have him. Oh, well, Luke wasn't really one of. Okay, you can have Luke. I'll give you anything you want. The Book of Acts, can't trust that. Yeah, you can have that too. I'll just use Mark. Any book of the New Testament, I'm gonna slap you around with it. By the time you get done with them, you can't even use the Bible, which is proof that theology is the primary enemy of Islam. The previous scriptures show and prove that what they believe is false. And it's a perennial problem. Every day they wake up, that Bible is there to show them that Islam is false. And that's why they got to get rid of it. So Christians, stop taking the long road with them. Just take the short road. Tell them they can have it. Don't
Yeah, I
argue
just
with
took
them
a
about
bunch of
Paul's
notes. That was good.
legitimacy. You don't argue with them about the legitimacy of a prophet or something like that. Let them have it. There's plenty of theology to slap them around with. And if you guys get clever, you can destroy Islam with the foundation of the Bible, which is the book of Genesis. By the time you get to chapter 25 of Genesis, which has 50 chapters, they're going to have 50 problems. If there's any Muslim wants to challenge me, feel free to raise your hand. You can come up. I'm well rested. I do need to get a bite to eat, but so Stephanie, you haven't bought into some of the latest information on the Gospel of John. You still think it was written late?
That's interesting. You'd have to fill me into the Gospel of John dating that I understand is 60 to 90.
Okay, yeah.
Tell
No,
me, is
well,
there
you
something
you
I
but
missed?
okay. Well, hang on. You said 60 to 90. Yeah, Craig Blomberg and a lot of other scholars have actually changed their opinion about that. They did it also with the Didache. For the longest time, the Didache was said to be written in the early part of the second century. Now, the majority of scholars, the consensus of scholars, say it was written in the first century.
Really?
Yeah, and the Gospel of John has so much internal information that the person who wrote it could have only been familiar with a Jerusalem that was intact before its destruction in 70 AD.
That's
So
interesting.
I
Do
am
you have, who did you say was doing work on this? I want to look it up.
Craig Blomberg
Okay.
in his book. You know what? I'll have to back channel it to you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, please. Oh, he's at
Yeah,
Trinity?
but you can Denver Theological Seminary, I believe.
Okay.
But I think that you can just Google it and
Is it the historical reliability of John's Gospel?
yeah.
Okay, beautiful. That's going in my list right now. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to ask when you mentioned Habermas, do
But
you
my
have all three of those tomes that he wrote on the resurrection?
yes, I do.
Have you gotten through them?
Of course not. They've one of them is like
Okay, good. I feel better.
1,400. It's. I mean, collectively, you're talking about 4,000, 5,000 pages. I think the biggest book that I have is the Jewish Study Bible and Commentary. Is like 2,400 and some pages long. So I think that kind of Habermas is here. Let me see which ones I have. I got my Google library. It's
I
fascinating.
got, I think, 4 chapters in or so to his first book on evidences for the resurrection, and like you could just spend years on that right there. Like just within the introduction of the first, I had to take a break.
Yeah, but then again, I have many of his other books, and he's really just reiterating a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff is already, you know, all right. This is what I have. I have on the resurrection evidence. I have on the resurrection refutations. On the resurrection scholarly perspectives.
Yeah, that's the trilogy right there.
Yeah. So I have all of them.
If you're looking at them on Google, like the three of them are sitting on my shelf, and it's like you said, it's just thousands of pages. They're massive books.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't. These are not books that I'm going to go cover to cover. They're just going to be resource books, like dictionaries. And then I have his evidence for the historical Jesus. I also have the historical Jesus by Gary Habermas, and this is just in my Kindle library.
Yeah, those are much smaller. I had the evidences for the historical Jesus. It's a much more like Lee Strobel kind of friendly
Yeah,
introduction to the whole thing. Yeah.
but what I'm saying is you're gonna see a lot of that information reiterated in these. Like I said, you get what I'm saying. So that's why I'm kind of skipping through them, is because like, yeah, I've already heard him say that, and but hey, he's actually an instructor at my alma mater.
Really?
Yeah, Liberty Divinity.
Yes, yes. You went to Liberty?
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
my family went there.
yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, um, got a master's degree in theology from there. So he's a he's actually, people don't realize this, but Gary Habermas is actually, his degrees are in Christian philosophy. He's actually a Norman Geisler
Yep.
type cat. You know what I mean? So, but because he writes on the historical Jesus, most people think his background is history.
What
So uh,
way? Have you read any of his work on doubt?
mm-mm, no.
Historical evidence for the resurrection, which, as we've just discussed, he's written thousands of pages on. The other is Why Christians Doubt, and even why unbelievers doubt. And he has this very little book called by Gary Habermas. It's just called On Doubt. This is one of the best books I've ever read. Like I would put that next to like C.S. Lewis and some of my favorite like modern Christian writing. It was, and it's dry, but it just sort of goes through like what doubt is and why people experience it. And it was kind of mind blowing to see the same guy who's arguing for I guess they go together. Like if maybe if he's doubting, he's searching for evidence and that kind of thing. But he also has like, was it Veritas? I think Veritas put out a series of talks from him on doubt as well. If you don't want to read them, he's got like 3 long, like hour-long talks on YouTube.
Hmm.
They're so good. Like it changed the way that I do apologetics after I read that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Hey, DL, you mind if I mention something?
Go ahead, bro.
Just like the Hebrew Israelites do. If you click on the arrow up at the very top next to leave, hit invite people and click on every person that has a green dot next to their green bubble next to their name. It'll invite people into the room and then we can get the room filled. This is actually a trick and tactic that the Hebrew Israelites do. They'll make announcements and they'll say, everybody invite everybody who's on. And that's how you get like 1,000 people in the room.
Yeah, can you,
Oh, okay. Well,
hey, DL, can you let Black back up? He got kicked down.
I did. Yeah, because he kept running his mouth.